We're in an early model JK with a 6.2 L94 all aluminum LS engine. This was a manual transmission vehicle, so it had 321s in it, and my guess is we're still running them, because check this out, 65 miles an hour at 1500 RPM. So we're going to talk about one of the most often asked questions I get, and it's not what engine to get or how much power am I going to have, it's how much. We've been doing this a long time, guys. We started doing our first LS JK swaps back in 2008. We have some economies that maybe some of the rest of the market doesn't have. Part of that is we are the originator and we've developed all this technology. Two, we make pretty much everything in-house. All of our bracketry, whether it's steel or billet, is made in-house. Our electronics are sourced in-house. One of the only things we don't do in-house is powder coating. So what this leads to is economies. So let's talk about our in-house build, because that's what most guys are interested in. So starting off at our lowest cost swap, that would be the 5.3 LS. It starts at $15,999. Now there's going to be options on each one of these engines, so we'll go over those at the end because they're pretty consistent. But for $15,999, you get a full in-house build with a low mileage engine. What is a low mileage engine? Well, we try to source engines with under 30,000 miles, and that's starting to get tough with the LSs, because the LSs basically went out of production about 5 years ago. The 6.0 L96 was in current production right up till 2019, so those aren't an issue. The old 5.3s and 6.2s are getting kind of long in the tooth. Now we do have some options for the 6.2 we're going to talk about, but let's talk about the 5.3. There's basically two versions. There's the all aluminum LC9 and the iron LMG. Both excellent engines. The LMG is $15,999. The all aluminum LC9, which weighs a little bit less, is $16,999. They both put out over 300 horsepower. We're running 6L80 transmissions. They work excellent in lighter JKs like the one I'm in. A light JK is a light JK. Small tires, no steel bumpers, no skid plate. So that's where we start. Then we move up to the 6.0, and the 6.0 L96 is the same price as the all-aluminum 5.3. So that's $16,999. That's where we source the engine, the transmission, and all the parts. The L96, unlike the 5.3, having the extra displacement means that it can haul a heavier JK. And I want to mention that both the 5.3 and the 6.0 run on regular gas. So if that's a concern for you, you want to do expedition, you want to run crappy gas, then the 5.3 or the 6.0 LS is what you want. The L96 is the engine we mostly use. We have used some of the LC8, which is essentially the same engine, but it's multi-fuel. It will go the distance. Having an iron block like the LMG means it can go hundreds of thousands of miles trouble-free. The 5.3s do have variable valve timing and active fuel management. The 6.0 has variable valve timing, but no active fuel management. The 6.0 is going to haul a JK with 35s, 37s, and even 40s. It's going to haul a trailer with no issue. It's going to take it to high altitudes without much issue. Now, it doesn't have the raw horsepower of the 6.2, but it probably has enough or more horsepower than your JK needs. If you got a really heavy JK, you're running at high altitude, you're towing a heavy trailer, then you might want to move up. But other than that, the 6.0 is going to do what you want it to do at a really good price. We go up from there, we got the 6.2 LS. All the 6.2 LSs are all aluminum, high compression, and require premium fuel. We have basically two varieties of the 6.2 LS, and we only support those engines new. The reason is the 6.2s, like I said, end of life of those engines were a while back, and if you find an all aluminum low mileage 6.2 in a wrecking yard, the wrecking yard is going to get a lot of money for it. If you pay a low price for one, you're probably going to get a crappy motor. So we just use new old stock. There were two engines that we were using, and that's the L94, which is the truck version, and the L99, which is essentially an LS3 with variable valve timing. And we like the L99 better than the LS3 because we get more bottom end torque, and we still maintain our top end. Both the L94 and the L99 have variable valve timing and active fuel management. Up till recently, the L99 and L94s were readily available to us new in crate. That swap goes for $20,999, so basically $21,000. That's for a new engine, low mileage 6L80 transmission, and of course the parts and labor to do a turnkey swap. The L99s are getting scarce, so you have to check for availability. The L94s are still currently available. As time goes on, this inventory is going to go away, and we will no longer offer the new crate 6.2 LSs. The advantage of the 6.2 LS is it's all aluminum, has about 450 horsepower. When we're done with it, got plenty of power to tow a trailer, gonna haul a heavy JK with 40s with no issue, gonna tow, pretty much gonna do anything you want. The flip side of the 6.2 LS, very mild. Your wife will drive it to the store, it idles at 550 RPM, but at the same time it's kind of a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde engine. When you get on it, it really puts out horsepower, but at the same time it has excellent drivability, excellent excellent manners, good longevity. So it was a popular engine for us for many years. Now the decisions have become a little bit harder because with the introduction of the LT, we have some new technology that is not only rivaling but has definitely surpassed the LSs. Because SEMA's in town here in Las Vegas, I had some visitors from around the world, and some of these customers have done LT swaps with us. We've got some guys in Iceland that are running 44-inch tires on heavy JKs in the snow, and their feedback is the LT, the torque of the LT is just amazing. They no longer even want to deal with the LSs because these LTs can turn these 44s like diesels. We're doing a lot of swaps over there with the L86 and the LT1 because even the LS3s, even though they have a lot of horsepower, just simply cannot turn those larger tires like the LTs can. Not only that, but the 8-speed and the new 10-speed transmissions are proving that they're putting that engine in its power band, allowing these guys to plow through the snow at high speed with these heavy tires like they've never been able to do before. So let's talk about the LT lineup. We're basically offering two motors, and there is a third option, and we'll get into that. First is the L83. They are available new or low mileage, whichever you prefer. They are current production. The L83 is an awesome engine, and in my opinion, it should be the standard engine in the JK. It's got over 300 horsepower, but more importantly, it's got a lot of torque. Now, unlike the 5.3 LS, the 5.3 LT will haul a heavy JK. It will haul a JK with 37s and even 40s. Not as well as the 6.2, obviously, but this engine's got 11-to-1 compression, continuous variable valve timing, direct injection. It has a technology to allow this small displacement engine to haul your heavy JK with ease. Now, if you're going to be running at 10,000 feet, towing a trailer, go for the larger displacement engine. But if you're just going to be putting your JK around sea level, 2,000 feet, occasional trips to Moab, get 37s with rock sliders and 60s, 1-tons, whatever, L83 is more than enough. L83 starts at $29.99, same price as the LS 6.2. Now, you'd be surprised, but the performance of the L83 is very similar to the LS 6.2. A big part of that is the 8-speed transmission, because we do include the 8-speed transmission with the LT L83. You do have the option of going to the 6-speed if you want, but hey, if the 8-speed is available to you, go for it. It's going to give you better launch out of the hole, it's going to give you better economy on the top, and it's going to give you everything better in between. So an L83 with an 8090 transmission, I'm going to say performs somewhere between a 6.0 and a 6.2 LS, and it's probably going to get better economy, and it does run regular gas. So it just makes sense that the L83 is about the same price as the 6.2 LS. Now the 6.2 LS is going to put out more horsepower. So if you want to go drag race your Jeep, that top end horsepower, you're going to have more of it with the 6.2 LS. If you're looking for something that's going to haul your Jeep around economically on regular gas, you're not going to be embarrassed on the highway passing, you're going to be able to cruise at 75-80 miles an hour, the L83 is a good engine. I highly recommend the LTs and the later model JKs. That would be like 15 and up. But guys, consider that emissions are going to get more and more important. I just had a call from an emissions inspector in Wisconsin, and I've never had a call from an emissions inspector in Wisconsin. They don't even have a program yet for engine swaps. However, they're moving towards that direction. So you want to run an engine that's the same year newer than your chassis. At minimum, do that. So if you got a 16, 17, 18 JK or a JL or a JT, don't put an LS3 in it. That's just stupid. No authority is going to approve that. Not the US EPA, not your federal jurisdiction, not the BAR, not the ARB. You're just going to get nailed for tampering and have your tags pulled. So you want to have an engine at minimum that is the same year or newer than your vehicle. So if you've got a 16 JK, you don't want the fire-breathing horsepower of an LT1, get an L83. Moving up, I'm going to mention this engine quickly, and that is the L86 and soon to be L87. And by the way, the L83 does have an L84 counterpart. The difference between the L84 and the L87 and the L83 and the L86 is that they added automatic stop-start and dynamic fuel management. Neither one's a deal breaker. In fact, I don't think you need either one in a heavy JK. The L83 and the L86 are still going to be the standard until the L84 and the L87 have proven themselves. The L86 is not available new from GM unless you buy a long block. By the time you buy a long block and all the other stuff that goes along with it, you're going to spend more money than an LT1. And we're going to get into the LT1 in a minute. Now, we did a lot of L86 builds in the early days because the LT1s were well over $10,000 and the L86s were being put in the trucks in high volume, and we had a good supply of them. But things have changed today. If you don't have the money for an LT1, the LT1's going to run $29,999, under 30 grand. If you want to spend in the mid-20s, the L86 is $24,999. You're going to have LT1-like power. You're going to have a low-mileage engine, low-mileage transmission. The looks of the L86, well, it's not as good looking as the LT1. The LT1's a Corvette motor. It's got some pretty cool covers on it. It's got the low intake. The L86, on the other hand, is a little bit ugly. It's got a tall truck intake. Now let's move up to probably what most of you guys are going to be interested interested in, and that's the LT1. LT1 builds are all new. We do not use low mileage components. This is a new 8090 transmission, a new LT1 crate motor from GM Performance. If you watched my last video, you know that GM Performance does disable some of the features in the LT1 with the over-counter controllers. We do not do that. We use full functionality from the OE operating system. So if you want to use active fuel management and all the emissions like the purge valve, vent solenoid, we do incorporate all that into our build. So let's go back and look at the options now. If you get a budget build, as we call it, the LSs, they don't come with a heavy-duty cooling system, they don't come with the aeroforce gauge, and they don't come with heavy-duty drive shafts. The heavy-duty radiator is $699. That's an all-aluminum 52mm radiator of our design, and our new design is a dual header. The dual header design is based on some tractor radiators that we had experimented with, and what it does, it gives much better support to the tube where it goes into the header. So even if your JK does flex, that joint's going to stay solid. Next is going to be a heavy-duty cooling fan. Do you have to run it? Of course not. If you got a Pentastar fan, I highly recommend that you upgrade to a Camaro SS or a JL fan. While the Pentastar fan isn't a bad fan, it's difficult to control. Chrysler had a lot of problems with them. They set it up really weird where it has an inverse pulse width. So if you have a Pentastar fan, definitely upgrade. The earlier JKs have a 2-speed, single wound fan, DC brush, works fine in at 5.3, works fine at sea level. If you're going to put your JK under a heavy load, if you're going to go to high altitude, if you got a high compression 6.2, upgrade your fan. The upgraded JL or Camaro fan package is $749. That includes a new fan assembly, a heavy-duty harness. Now, the early JKs ran the fan off the tip and they use a relatively small gauge wire. We built a custom harness that has some pretty heavy gauge wires, and it has circuit protection built into it. And these cables go directly to the battery because these fans can pull 70-75 amps, and you don't want to be running that through your TIPM. The TIPM is already a grenade with a pin out. So that's going to include the fan, the heavy-duty harness, and the programming. We need to program or put the fan tables in your engine control module to operate the fan that you're running. Our standard drive shaft package is a 1350 rear CV all Spicer and a 1310 front CV all Spicer. We run a 1310 in the front because as your axle gets stuffed up, the track bar is going to push the axle over to the passenger side, and with the 1350 CV you could run that into the transmission. And that's not just true with our swap, but it's true with the stock JK. A lot of you guys have probably torn the boots. That's $1,095. That includes the heavy-duty drive shafts made by Adams Driveline here in town. A lot of you guys know who they are. It includes flanges for your stock transfer case and axles. We get rid of the Arzeppa cone flanges because those are kind of weak. And it also comes with hardware. And I'm going to say probably the last option is the Aeroforce gauge. And a lot of you ask me, what is it? The Aeroforce gauge is an enhanced scan gauge, which means it's one step better than a generic scan gauge or some of these Bluetooth adapters you have to go to your phone. It is set up for the GM CAN network, so it can get things like current gear, oil temperature, clear codes, it can read codes, it can do bidirectional controls like set your crankshaft variation learn. We either mount it right on top of the steering column, and if you buy the Aeroforce gauge from us, we'll give you a pedestal mount for that. We also offer a dual Aeroforce gauge package that we put on the A-pillar. If you want to get more than 2 parameters at a time, I recommend you get the dual gauges. The Aeroforce gauge does have a cyclic function where if you want to see more than 2 parameters, it will cycle the pages. I personally don't like that feature because if I'm looking at coolant temp and it disappears, I don't know what's going on. So if you want more than 2 parameters, just get the dual gauges. The Aeroforce gauge single with our mount is $239. The dual gauges with the A-pillar mount is $479. We do stock the green gauges with the black faces because I feel those work in best with the JK. They also offer blue and red letters. Since the JK has green vacuum fluorescent display, I think that it blends in the best. So that's it. We got LS 5.3 starting off at $15,999, all aluminum LS 5.3 and the 6.0 L96 at $16,999, the LS 6.2 all aluminum high compression 450 horsepower engine at $29,999, the LT 5.3 at $29,999, L86 at $24,999, top of the pile LT1 at $29,999. We are offering the LT4, as most of you know, and the LT4 call for price, but I believe it's going to be significantly less costly than the Hellcats that are out there. In the current lineup, the LT1 8-speed is top of the pile. It is an awesome engine, and it's going to be future-proof for a lot of years to come. That is our pricing strategy. If you have any questions, give us a call. We're going to take this JK to the mountain, and we'll see you back at the shop with some more exciting builds. Thanks.